Yeah, it was not too far away from this farmhouse. So, but we sat there and I just said, they're not coming. They probably can't find us. And I just said, we got to go. And they lifted me out and we drove up to the top of the road and the fence was locked. And I'm going, why didn't they just break it down? But, there are 3, 4 police cars, ambulance there, fire truck. And I'm like, they've been probably there for 15 minutes. And I think back to it, I was very fortunate. There was a helicopter that was actually there looking there's a medic police helicopter that was there for another car accident and decided just to take a look at the shooting accident. And by chance he came by, and if I didn't have the helicopter take me to the hospital, certainly would have died because it was a 45-minute drive from where I got shot to the hospital.
I've heard people recounting stories when they've had traumatic accidents like this. I had an amazing girl on the podcast, Meg Fisher. And Meg, Colorado girl, but a tragic story. I must share the link to the podcast with you. She was driving. She's been a multiple gold medalist Paralympian since, but she was driving with her girlfriend at the time when she was 18 and the car flipped and her girlfriend tragically died and she lost her leg. But she recalls this moment where everything happened so fast, but for her, it was like everything slowed down. And she can recall the car tumbling. She can record vivid detail of expressions on the face of her girlfriend, the diner lady who pulled her out of the car. Did you have a moment like that where either in the helicopter in transit or in the hospital where everything just seemed to slow down?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why I said I don't know if I was in the field for 20 minutes or 5 minutes, but it seemed like it was slow motion. And then when I was taken to the ambulance at the top of the property, I knew they were, I was probably fading pretty quickly, but they kept asking for my address, 745 Anilla Way. I still remember it because I repeated it 100 times, but they kept asking my address. And then, but I from there, I got into the helicopter and I kind of remember taking off. But that was it. Then I do remember landing and kind of slow-mo from the helicopter, kind of like you see in the movies. And then they shoved me into the doors and probably instantly they took they punctured a hole into my lung for my collapsed lung. And it's the last thing I remember. But it was, I remember, I don't remember the face like that. I mean, she's remembering almost exactly like when I got shot. There's 5 minutes where she's tumbling. I could see that. I mean, it's amazing what your brain can take in.
You described yourself as an eternally optimistic person. Was your mindset optimistic for a comeback in those early days, or was it purely survival?
One of the things that I think that people don't understand too, and maybe it's at our period, but you make a choice and move to Europe and get married and you got to make a living. And, as an athlete, people don't realize it's like that's your whole life, but it feels like your next paycheck is everything. And so it's not just if you're riding bad. At the time, nobody gave you a break. And if you had an accident like this, typically you're done with cycling. And without kind of saying, okay, maybe you can come back and rehab. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of that right when I got shot, but I would say after my first tour win, and I was pretty down that winter. And really, it was winning the tour, this dream, and fighting for it, and then not really getting credit for it, not getting that satisfaction of a happy team behind the victory. Really impacted me. And so when I got shot, it was kind of like I wasn't certain I wanted to race again at that point. When I did go back to Europe, actually that winter, I really contemplated, I'd maybe taken a period off. And then I got back to racing. I felt better, got, into racing. But when I got shot, I was like, I don't know if I can do this again. That was just the first 3-4 weeks. But a month later, I got a letter from Bernard Tapie and basically said, we had a great, 3-year relationship, actually 2 years, but you're fired. And he let me go. So even that didn't impact me until I started getting healthy and all that. And then I realized, what am I going to do to make a living? And so that's part of it. I had a bike company I started at that time. So I was feeding that. And at that time, I wasn't making a lot of money, not compared to athletes today. And so part of that stress was not just their hunting accident. It was, how do I survive? What do I, how do I manage a bike company that I'm not even racing? I mean, and I'm not even managing it. So, my dad and another guy were doing it. So the stress for that was incredible.
This was an extract from my podcast with Mr. Greg LeMond. If you want to check out the full conversation, you can click here. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.